Welcome back to the Work of Wellbeing podcast. I'm Amy Green, your host from The Wellness Strategy, and we're here to talk about all things personal and professional wellbeing. This podcast is designed to help you become curious and consider your everyday wellbeing strategies, what you do for your own wellness, and how you can start to transform your life both in and out of the workplace. Sit back, grab a cup of tea, maybe grab a notepad, a journal, and get ready to feel really enlightened about what wellbeing used to be, what it is now, and where you can take your own wellness strategy. Hey, welcome back to another episode here, all about wellbeing and its work, but also I think where we're heading in 2025. So I'm going to do a couple of episodes, more than a couple actually, over term one to unpack what it is we are doing, what we're focusing on, and why. And the first thing I want to share with you really is about why we need to move away from personal strategies and look at workplace strategies, which I'm laughing because this is quite different for me. I'm one that would advocate that personal wellbeing really matters. And look, I definitely think that, and I'm not saying that it doesn't. In actual fact, I do think unless you do the work first, it makes looking at workplace wellbeing quite challenging. But I also know that there's been a lot in this space for the last couple of years. You know, I wrote a whole book about it, Teacher Wellbeing. If you haven't read it, go and do that, definitely. And we know that wellbeing is about our emotional health. It's about resilience. It's about energy and function. Or maybe you don't know that, but that's what it is for me. You know, it is about understanding how to be emotionally healthy through regulation, emotional agility, emotional granularity. It's also about choosing great coping strategies and knowing what they are for us. And then how do we maintain energy, understanding energy depletion, but also energy building things within our life. And, you know, I'm a big advocate for saying choose what works for you. It looks different person to person, and we've got to play around with things, and what worked on Monday may not work Friday. That's okay. I also know that in this space, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of information in each of these areas, whether it's through podcasts or books or self-help or things that you see online or social media even, although I'm not recommending we get our information from there. But there's just a lot. And I think if you want to know more about sleep or you want to know more about emotional regulation, you can find some great resources. Now, if you're not sure what they are or how to find them, inside our swim membership, I run plug and play workshops and staff meetings that you can facilitate with staff, but we also have our Elevate Your Own Wellbeing that everyone gets individual access to, and then there are a bunch of resources in there as well. I've kind of done the looking for you and put them into one place and have shared and created some of my own online courses in that platform too. There's all kinds of things in there that allow you to be able to find what you want and then do some self-paced learning as an individual, as a team, or even as a whole school, which leads me to this idea that I think we have perhaps overused this idea that wellbeing is an individual responsibility, and we've forgotten that there's a collective piece too. We've forgotten that wellbeing is not only individual responsibility, it's also collective. And I'm seeing, or I saw last year, a really big focus on wanting to build individual capacity of wellbeing, and I think it's great, like I absolutely do, and I delivered a number of PDs on that myself, but I also think we're missing this idea of collective responsibility and the strategic work and what needs to happen at a workplace level. It doesn't matter how much one learns to understand and better develop emotional health or have great coping strategies. If we don't address through a workplace lens things like stress factors, inefficient work systems, being perhaps having areas where we're stretched at capacity because our calendar is too overcrowded. Like if we don't address some of those things, it doesn't matter how well my coping strategies might work for me. There are still things in that realm which are going to impact how I feel and how I work and how I team and lead. And so we have to prepare to do this as well. This is actually the more important strategic work at a school level, not making sure everyone has individual wellbeing strategies. However, I will say at an individual level, we can't be outsourcing it to our principal is not going to come and tell us what time to go to bed. That's just not going to happen. We got to do some self-adulting and some self-parenting to, master our own emotions, to be able to fuel our body with what it needs. But like I said, there's lots of information out there right now. What is more important, I think, and I think this is the challenge, and this is where we're really going to be at the Wellness Strategy focusing in 2025, is looking at, okay, we've done some personal work here. We've equipped our staff, or our staff are quite great at what they do in terms of their own well-being. What is it that we can enhance at a workplace level to be able to make a real difference? Now, this doesn't have to be because your school is doom and gloom or it's not effective already. This is about turning our schools into great workplaces where people thrive and students benefit. That is ultimately what we're talking about here. It's not about, oh, this, my school's such a terrible place to work, how do we make it better? Although if that's happening, we do want to do that. It's about asking, am I giving opportunities for the people in my school environment to be productive in how they work, to be efficient, to be effective, to work with energetic ease and sustainability? Am I making sure that they're engaged in the work that they do, providing meaningful and fulfilling work, reducing busy tasks or admin tasks, or reviewing what that looks like? And am I making sure we have an element of performance and growth, so I know and our people know what it means to work well here, what we expect from them, what done looks like, so they can switch off? And how are we ensuring that people are growing and learning and taking on feedback and continuous improvement and growth mindset? All of these things come into play when we're talking about well-being at a workplace level. And so what I'm asking in 2025 is that we shift our conversation here. We move from this idea of how it's always been done, of this is the way we do it here, of, yeah, but this is just how, person ABC does it. And we start to ask instead, is this the best way? Is this the most effective way? Is this the way that supports staff wellbeing and the school we want to create and the culture we want to be a part of? This is where we need to shift our conversation to. This is where we need to shift our work to. We need to reflect on our systems and our processes, on the satisfaction and retention of our staff, on how productive they feel. We need to look at things like environmental design, and is our environment conducive to helping people work well? We need to remove unnecessary tasks and be really specific and strategic about what it is we're prioritizing. So for me in 2025, this is the work we're stepping into. Will we still be doing our wellbeing workshops? Of course. They may not be whole days. However, it might be a blend of individual and collective. I think we need to perhaps let go of the idea that it is just individual, if some of you are still thinking that, or, leaders thinking that if we just do this individual workshop, everything will be okay, because we need to really understand that to turn schools into great workplaces, it's the collective responsibility of all of us. And that's what's going to make a difference, I think, in what schools look like in the future. And the future could be tomorrow, The future could be in 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be in 10 years, which in some spaces of education, that's how slow we move. We don't need to move slow here. We need to be better at honouring the people and their voice that work in our spaces. And we need to redefine what wellbeing looks like in schools through a workplace perspective in terms of what we have collective responsibility for, so that we can really start to redesign our schools to be wonderful, exciting, rewarding places to work. And I know some of you might be thinking, this is actually hard and we can't do it, or we don't have the time, or we've got different priorities. And I think what we need to understand is that no matter what your school priority is, it is going to impact staff wellbeing either in a helpful or unhelpful way. If your priority is around pedagogy or explicit instruction, or if it's around student wellbeing, it is going to impact the wellbeing of your staff, especially through a workplace wellbeing lens, because they are the people carrying these things out. And so maybe explicit instruction is your key priority area for 2025, because we're seeing a lot of this. But have you thought about your implementation phase? Have you thought about how you're going to roll this out? Have you thought about what you might need to de-implement in order to implement this well? This is staff wellbeing. This is what we're talking about, setting people up to be successful through considering, when we're bringing in new priorities and initiatives, how do we do that in a way that allows them to feel well and work well and team well and lead well? The opposite is, we're going to start explicit instruction. This is what it looks like. Go and do it. And, we talk so much with student learning about modeling, about high quality examples, about gradual release and scaffolding and differentiation. These things are true too for the people who work in our schools. We need to provide clear examples. We need to have a scaffolded approach and use gradual release. We need to differentiate depending on where people are at. Without this, what we do is perhaps send a message that we don't trust our teachers, that we are removing autonomy, that we are expecting them to let go of their expertise and just do XYZ. And none of that's true. And I don't think anyone is ever doing that intentionally. But this is certainly the narrative or the message we hear when we don't consider well-being, when we're introducing new initiatives, or when we're doing new things. So as you set out to do whatever it is in 2025, staff well-being or not, know that even without intention, staff well-being is being impacted. And so therefore we have to move not just on the idea of personal strategies, but also what is the collective work we're doing behind the scenes as well. I would love to hear your thoughts on this, especially if you're someone who maybe hasn't prioritised staff wellbeing as explicitly, but this has made you think about what that might be or look like. And I'll also know that if you need anything, I am absolutely here to answer questions. Otherwise, have a wonderful day, week, night, evening, whatever time of day it is for you, and I'll see you somewhere soon. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. I really do hope you have enjoyed it. The information discussed today was just that, information only. It's not specific advice. If you take action following something you heard today, it's important to make sure that you get professional advice about your unique situation before you proceed, whether that advice be legal, financial, accounting, medical, or otherwise. Please reach out to me if you have any questions or if there's anything else I can do to support your own wellbeing and wellness journey, whether it's another topic you'd like me to discuss or whether it's support in your school, workplace, or individually. And if you do know someone who might benefit from listening to this, please remember to tell them about it, share the episode with them, or suggest my Instagram, my website, or LinkedIn where they can find out more about me and what I do. And as always, I will see you in the next episode.